Hey everybody, how are you doing today? This video is going to be an introduction to my page and to my channel. This channel is going to be geared towards educating us. It's going to be an educational channel geared towards remolding our minds and reshaping the way that we've been thinking. And the reason that I'm doing this or attempting to do this is because we have been taught to act and think a certain way. But once you take a step back and really look at the world and really reanalyze it, you begin to ask questions such as, well, why do we do this? Or why is this way? Or why do we act like this? And you begin to seek answers to those questions. And of course, by seeking answers, you gain information and knowledge. But on that journey, I will say, just be careful about the information that you receive or the information that you accept to be true. And the reason that I say this is because you are the information that you receive. And you will begin to act a certain way or think a certain way depending on what you think is true, or your perspective on life will kind of be predicated on what you think is true. So be careful about what you listen to, about what you read, and about what you research. And also I want to add is that we've already been given a lot of misinformation, and a lot of it has been deliberate as well. So in an attempt to basically find true answers to things, you also have to basically delete the old information. And sometimes that can be pretty challenging, especially if the new information you have is completely opposite to your beliefs, or something that you don't want to give away, or something you don't want to throw away. So like I said, be careful about the information, and we will have to make those hard decisions of trying to keep what we had before or accept this new information to be true. Or it may be something just completely different altogether, and you may have to kind of use your brain a little bit more to figure out the answer to whatever problem or whatever question that you have. So in this channel, I'll try to leave out as many of my personal opinions and beliefs as possible. But of course, there will be times where I have to actually give my opinion or tell from my perspective about certain issues or certain situations. But the purpose of this channel is to actually present you with the information, and you form the conclusion for yourself. One thing that I've seen with people in actually gaining new information and gaining knowledge is that they've kind of started religious movements or religious denominations or different movements altogether. And from what I've been seeing, I don't think a lot of people have actually taken the time to reanalyze and triple check just to make sure that what they're seeing or what they believe is true, or as true as possible. And this just kind of gives a couple of things that we'll talk about, and it's not all inclusive, but it's just lists some things. We'll talk about history, both United States history and world history. And we'll talk about also history from the perspective of brown people, especially in America. And I tend to say brown instead of black because through my research, I've realized that black and white mean the same things. So I tend to say brown more. And of course, I may actually slip up a couple of times and say black, especially since I'm still used to it. And you hear, black every day. So I try to say brown, but anyway, we'll talk about science as well, human physiology and nutrition. These are just two of the things that we'll talk about. And the reason that we'll discuss these things is because it's important to know your body and how your body functions and how your body works. Like for instance, if you actually knew the mechanism behind how you get arthritis, or how people get arthritis and how people get diabetes, you could actually cure those things or find cures for those things. And you don't have to actually go to the doctor and get medicines and get prescriptions that, judging from their side effects, tend to cause more problems than what you initially had. And of course, I'm not saying that don't go to your doctor or, boycott your doctors or anything. It's just to give you more information so you can better make decisions about your health altogether. We'll talk about anthropology, the study of cultures and societies and how they function. We'll talk about etymology, which is the study of words and definitions and how those words actually change over time, and also how the definitions change over time. And we'll also talk about language. And language kind of goes hand in hand with anthropology and etymology, but we'll kind of branch off a little and kind of use that as a way to judge which peoples or which nations actually descend from which. And just to give you an example of that, we have in Europe, there are the Slavic languages, we have the Germanic languages, and we also have the Romance languages as well as others. But you can use those languages to kind of get a better perspective or a better view about which nations actually descend from which, or which peoples in these nations are more closely related. But I'll say one exception to that rule is the Germanic peoples of France. Historically, they were known as the Franks, but today we say France. Well, like I just said, France or the Franks were Germanic people, or are Germanic people, but they speak a Romance language. And Romance languages, of course, derived from Latin. So you have Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, French. Like, all of those are Romance languages. And of course, Romance doesn't mean love in this situation. It actually means, derived from Rome and the Roman Empire. We'll also talk about current events, and the reason that I'm including this is because it's important to know what's going on and what's happening in your backyard, because we don't want to be oblivious to certain things and certain situations that are happening, and we miss something, have to say, well, oh man, what happened? What just happened? So we want to be abreast of everything that's going on. And of course, that doesn't mean that you have to actually participate in everything, but it's good to know what's going on so that you can know how to react, or you can know how to prepare, or whatever you have to, based on situations that are going on around you. And once we put all of these things together, a little bit of United States history here, a little bit of etymology here, a little bit of current events over there, you begin to actually put pieces together and form a puzzle. And with these pieces, or with this puzzle, you'll see things that you couldn't see before, because maybe you didn't know information about certain situations or certain topics, or you were only really advanced in one area, or you only had one area of expertise. So we want to be as well-rounded as possible so that we can see as big a picture as we need to. So like I said, this is really an introduction, a brief introduction to my page and to my channel. So until then, talk to you soon.